Imagine walking through the 1933 World's Fair and seeing a chrome-plated teardrop that looked more like a spaceship than a sedan. While every other car on the road was a boxy, vibrating relic of the past, this machine was built to rewrite the laws of physics. It promised to carry nearly a dozen people at speeds that would leave a professional racer breathless, all while using less fuel than a modern compact. But beneath the polished aluminum skin lay a radical design choice that made it both a miracle of engineering and a potential disaster. Before the public could even wrap their heads around it, a single tragic moment ensured this vision of the future would never truly reach the highway. The Dymaxion wasn't the brainchild of a Detroit executive or a greasy-nailed mechanic. It was the obsession of a philosopher named Buckminster Fuller. Fuller didn't just want to build a better car. He wanted to solve the problem of human movement by stripping away every ounce of unnecessary waste. He coined the term Dymaxion as a blend of dynamic, maximum, and tension, signaling a machine that did more with less. In an era where cars were heavy, iron-clad boxes, Fuller looked at a teardrop and saw the perfect blueprint for a world that hadn't yet discovered aerodynamics. He wasn't just designing a vehicle, he was attempting to prove that the entire automotive industry was building cars the wrong way. While the rest of Detroit was stuck building upright, wind-catching boxes, Fuller looked to the sky for his inspiration. The Dymaxion's 20-foot-long body was crafted from smooth aluminum, tapering sharply toward the back like a raindrop frozen in motion. This wasn't just for show, it was a masterclass in reducing drag, allowing the massive vehicle to slip through the air with almost no resistance. To the average 1930s driver, it looked more like a grounded blimp or a wingless airplane than anything meant for a driveway. This shape promised a level of efficiency that seemed like science fiction, yet it also hid a secret instability that would eventually come back to haunt the design. Beneath the aerodynamic skin, the Dymaxion hid a layout that defied every standard rule of the road. Instead of the typical four-wheel setup, Fuller opted for just three, two in the front for power and a single wheel at the very back. This rear wheel wasn't just a support, it was the rudder, turning the car from the tail exactly like a boat or a small airplane. This gave the massive 20-foot vehicle a turning radius so tight it could practically spin in its own shadow. While it made navigating tight city streets look like child's play, it also created a steering sensation that felt completely alien to anyone used to a traditional steering wheel. Stepping inside, the Dymaxion felt less like entering a sedan and more like boarding a private luxury coach. Because Fuller moved the engine to the rear and ditched the traditional bulky chassis, he unlocked a massive amount of floor space that Detroit engineers could only dream of. Despite being roughly the same weight as a standard Ford, the Dymaxion's elongated fuselage-style cabin was cavernous enough to seat 11 people. It was a masterpiece of spatial efficiency, offering the utility of a modern minibus decades before the concept even existed. This layout proved that a car didn't have to be a heavy, cramped iron box to be functional. It just needed a smarter internal architecture. Under the rear hood, the Dymaxion packed a legendary Ford flathead V8 engine, but Fuller didn't use it like everyone else. By pairing this 85-horsepower heart with a front-wheel drive system and a 3-speed manual transmission, he created a power-to-weight ratio that was unheard of in 1933. This setup allowed the massive teardrop to cruise at 90 miles per hour, a speed that would make most contemporary sedans shake themselves apart. Even more shocking was the efficiency, as the car reportedly sipped fuel at 30 miles per gallon while carrying a full load of passengers. It was a performance profile that modern car manufacturers still struggle to balance today, proving that Fuller's obsession with doing more with less was far from just a theory. While the Dymaxion could easily outrun almost anything on the road, its speed came with a terrifying trade-off. Because the steering was controlled entirely by that single rear wheel, the faster the car went, the more it felt like a boat caught in a storm. At 90 miles per hour, even a minor steering correction could cause the entire rear end to swing wide, making high-speed lane changes a gamble. Strong crosswinds were an even bigger threat, catching the long teardrop body and pushing it across the pavement like a sail. Drivers had to develop a completely different set of reflexes just to keep the machine centered on the highway. This delicate balance between record-breaking pace and unpredictable handling meant that the car was only as safe as the person behind the wheel. Just as the Dymaxion was poised to change the world at the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, tragedy struck in front of a global audience. One of the rare prototypes was involved in a high-profile collision with another vehicle, causing the aerodynamic machine to flip over. The impact was severe, and the person behind the wheel did not survive the crash. While later investigations proved that the accident wasn't caused by a mechanical failure or a flaw in Fuller's engineering, the damage was already done. In an era where the public was already skeptical of such a radical shape, this single event branded the car as a dangerous experiment. The headlines shifted from praising the future of travel to questioning the safety of its three-wheeled design. What the public didn't realize was that the Dymaxion was never meant to stay on the ground forever. Fuller's ultimate vision was a go-everywhere machine, a vehicle that could navigate city streets before extending wings and taking to the skies. He intentionally designed the teardrop body with the same aerodynamic properties as an aircraft fuselage, preparing for a future where wheels would eventually be replaced by jet stilts or wings. He saw the car as an intermediate step, a way to get people comfortable with the idea of a streamlined rear steering pod before moving them into the clouds. To Fuller, the Dymaxion wasn't just a car with three wheels. It was a prototype for a civilization that no longer viewed roads as a limitation. Despite the ambitious dreams and the engineering breakthroughs, the Dymaxion project collapsed after only 3 prototypes were ever built. Most were lost to time or accidents, leaving behind only a single original survivor to tell the story of Fuller's forgotten future. This lone vehicle is now a prized artifact in the United States, serving as a silent witness to a revolution that stalled before it could truly begin. In recent years, enthusiasts have spent thousands of hours and millions of dollars creating perfect reproductions just to feel what it was like to pilot such a radical machine. When modern engineers look at these recreations today, they don't see a failure. They see the DNA of the modern fuel-efficient cars we drive every morning. The Dymaxion Car was a challenge to the status quo that arrived nearly a century too early. While the world wasn't ready for its three-wheeled logic or its flying ambitions, the core principles of efficiency and form live on in every electric vehicle and hypercar on the road today. It serves as a haunting reminder that sometimes the most brilliant ideas are the ones that end up parked in the shadows of history. But here's the real mystery. If we had embraced Fuller's vision back in 1933, would we even be using roads at all today?